Hello, my name is Tim. My company is Sports and Touring, and we are performance Jaguar and particularly F-Type specialists. And a very good question which crops up from time to time came in again a couple of days ago from a gentleman who is interested in some of the 400 Sport F-Types that we've got in stock. We've got some coupes and convertibles, we've got rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, and his question was, which is better? What are the relative merits of the rear-wheel drive versus the all-wheel drive F-Type? And it's a question that deserves proper consideration because it's very significant from a number of points of view. Let's start with just talking about what it means. So if you're not familiar with the terms, in a rear-wheel drive car, the engine is connected through the gearbox and the drive shaft to the differential on the back axle, and it then sends torque or power to the two rear wheels. The front wheels effectively just coast along the road as the road travels under them. They rotate, but nothing is causing them to rotate beyond that. In an all-wheel drive car, power is sent from the engine to both the front and rear wheels of the car. In the early days of all-wheel drive, it was very often 50-50 power distribution. Various manufacturers experimented with things like 60-40, so 60% of the power going to the front of the car, 40% to the rear. And over time, technology improved, computers got better, and the way that power can be handled around the car got better, to the point that now we have intelligent all-wheel drive systems which can, in the case of the F-Type, send all of the power to the rear axle unless and until the car senses that it needs some power to the front axle, either because grip is being lost at the back end and there's grip available at the front end, and that's purely about straight line acceleration, or because the car is maneuvering and the car senses that some power to the front axles, stub axles, will help the car to turn into a corner by dragging the nose into the corner. And then the system sends power to the front of the car when and where it's needed. Now, of course, that brings some added complexity and some additional weight and some additional losses of power in the drivetrain, because whenever you send power from one place to another, you lose a little bit of it. Those are the reasons why an all-wheel drive car may be slower 0 to 60 than its rear-wheel drive counterpart. Additional weight, additional complexity, and power losses. Now, in the all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive F-Type case, those are relatively minor things, not really worth considering. There are some additional servicing costs, of course, with all-wheel drive because there are more components which require attention, but again, they are very, very minimal indeed. Now, I ought to pause and make a very important practical point, and that is that if you live, for example, up a mountain or along a farm track, if you often drive on slippery roads, then there are compelling reasons to go all-wheel drive because it is better for those environments. But if you don't drive in those environments, then it's largely a choice that you can make depending on your preference as a driver. Now, let's explore that a little bit. I happen to love driving my little kit car. It's rear-wheel drive, it has no computers on it at all. I love the Mazda MX-5, it's rear-wheel drive with a tiny little bit of traction control computer. And I do love driving both the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive F-Types. But the experience between all-wheel, like this SVR on my left, and the rear-wheel drive V8R 550 horsepower through the rear axle only, the experience is very different and it delivers different pleasure to the driver. Yes, the SVR all-wheel drive, amazing for aggressively turning into a corner and letting the all-wheel drive system help you round that bend. I actually get a little bit more out of driving the rear-wheel drive car and carefully positioning it into the corner so that it is balanced and the energy use is efficient, and I know that I'm using power and my actions on the steering wheel correctly to get the car to go round the bend in a progressive and fluid and fluent style, because I know that when that goes well, it's down to me, my brain, my hands and my feet, whereas in the all-wheel drive car, when those things happen, it is me and my brains and hands and feet, but it's also the assistance of the all-wheel drive system in the car. And so if you're a driver who just likes hacking around the road and feeling the car manoeuvring in an agile and responsive fashion, maybe the all-wheel drive is for you. But if you're a driver who loves to attack a series of bends and debrief yourself after those bends and say, hey, well, that felt smooth and progressive and there was no scrubbing of energy in the wrong places and I didn't actually lose grip anywhere, then maybe the rear-wheel drive experience is the one which you will find the most scintillating. I ought to add, by the way, of course, that if you're not an enthusiastic driver, if you're not someone whose driving is technically very good, then a powerful rear-wheel drive car, such as the V8R or indeed the rear-wheel drive 400 Sport, needs to be taken down the road with a little more care than an all-wheel drive car. There is the potential for it to demonstrate that it is a car which doesn't have the assistance of all-wheel drive in terms of maintaining stability and tractability and all of those things. But on the other hand, if you do want to explore improving your driving and learning about those things to the point where you are master and commander, or mistress and commander, of your rear-wheel drive sports car, then that is a very intoxicating and enjoyable thing to do as well. So, leaving aside the practicalities of driving on slippy roads, it's largely down to the kind of driver you are and the pleasure you want to get from your car. And if in fact the driving is not for you at the heart of your F-Type ownership journey, and you're thinking more about just having this beautiful British sports car in your life, looking out and seeing it parked on your drive, taking it somewhere for the weekend, then maybe there are other things in your decision making, like the colour, the equipment, the mileage, the service history, the price point and so forth, which are going to dictate your journey more, and the question of all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive is of lesser importance. So if you're making this decision at the moment or thinking about this decision, I hope that's been helpful. Please do engage, make some comments below, leave your thoughts. It'll be a pleasure to have a conversation there in the comments section. Do also please like and subscribe to us here on YouTube if you wish. We are going to be building more F-Type related content and Jaguar related and car buying and selling related content in weeks and months to come. Our contact details are coming up shortly as well. If you are in search of an F-Type, or if you own an F-Type and have questions, or if you are indeed thinking about disposing of your F-Type, it'll be a pleasure to chat to you and try to be helpful. We're Sports and Touring. We're just outside Andover in Hampshire in England. I will say thank you for now and look forward to seeing you again very soon.